Welcome to my YouTube, Robin James, music and reviews. Welcome to my YouTube, Robin James, music and reviews.
I was certain that I saw him watching me.
You pretend like you moved on, but you're actually just obsessed with death.
Hello, welcome to Robin James Music and Reviews. I was thinking I just saw Halloween Ends, might as well do a review about it. So this movie is very much splitting the fan base at this point. And what are my thoughts about it? Well, first of all, let's learn a little bit about the movie. It's directed by David Gordon Green, who's really known for more artsy comedy, but recently, of course, he's tackled this Halloween trilogy with Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and now Halloween Ends. It's written by David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, another comedic actor who is clearly trying to cross over. And I think ultimately they do a pretty good job. These aren't the worst Halloween movies ever by any stretch of the imagination. There's ones like between Halloween 4 and 6 and Halloween Resurrection that are, to me, worse films. I think this film has a fatal flaw, and we'll get into that a little bit here. But the story is really that Michael Myers, it's now 4 years from Halloween Kills, and Michael Myers has sort of disappeared from Haddonfield, and they're looking for him.
It's been 4 years since Michael Myers vanished without a trace.
And it turns out he's basically living in the sewer, which is a very odd choice, I think, and one of the reasons this film gets some criticism. In the movie, it's 4 years after the events of Halloween Kills. Laurie is basically living with her granddaughter, Allison, at the time, and she's writing a memoir telling her life story about fighting Michael Myers and all the people she lost. She's determined to liberate herself from all these fears and the rage that it caused. But then all of a sudden we're introduced to a young man, Corey Cunningham, who was basically accused of killing a kid as a babysitter in Haddonfield. Corey's granddaughter is interested in him, and he's seen as like the pariah of Haddonfield at this point. They're almost turning their attention to him instead of Michael Myers. Because in a scene, and spoilers by the way, definitely go see the movie before you listen to the rest of this. He basically accidentally kills a kid while he's babysitting, and they pin him for murder. He does not get charged, but the town still sees him as a murderer. And in a lot of ways, they're projecting their fears of Michael Myers onto this kid. And the movie really is about the journey this guy Corey goes on. It's not really even about Laurie as much as it is Corey. And get that, Laurie, Corey. I don't know why they did that. It's very confusing. Another thing I think people don't like about this movie. But it's really about his journey and his arc of being like this town outcast who suddenly is getting attention from Allison, you know, this beautiful young woman, and but nobody's gonna like accept them as a couple. So in a lot of ways they're like Romeo and Juliet. They're sort of outcast together, and there's a lot of these cool scenes of them like riding the bike with some sweet music. I think there's good lighting in this, some pretty good atmosphere. But ultimately, I think the reason why this movie's getting such low scores and why it's hard to follow at first is it throws you into a whole different movie. It's not what Halloween or Halloween Kills were. You felt like we were building on that. We're just going to finish that up. But suddenly 4 years later, we've got this new character to follow. So my take on that is that if they would have just made this kind of a standalone movie, maybe even call it something else. Michael Myers doesn't need to be Michael Myers in this, because that's the other complaint. because Michael Myers is like literally an old dude in this. He's beat up. People are beating his ass, and he's really a bottom feeder at this point. And I think it's hard to see. It's hard to watch Michael Myers get his ass kicked. So it's a little weird, and it's off-putting, I think, to the fans of Halloween. So with that said, if they would have just basically made another killer who was living in the sewers and teaming up with this Corey guy to feed the hate and to kind of, be this young and old serial killer that's taken over this town, I think that's actually a very interesting idea for a horror movie. But ultimately, again, we're here for Michael Myers and for Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis's character. We're shocked all of a sudden that we're following Corey, and Michael is basically a shell of himself. And Corey, in this one scene, basically Michael sends his essence into Corey, which is also weird. Like, it's not really easy to follow. I believe that's what happened. But it really adds this other level that you're supposed to buy into that you're not used to. So at this point, Corey and Michael are actually working together. In a lot of ways, Corey's feeding him bodies and teaching Michael's teaching Corey sort of how to kill. And meanwhile, the town of Haddonfield is really beat up, and they're trying to heal themselves from all the pain and all the killings. And Corey starts to get crazier and crazier throughout. And basically, he becomes the villain of the movie. You think he's sort of this sympathetic character throughout, but the twist really becomes like he is evil, he is crazy, and Michael has basically imprinted on him, I think, this evil. And so then there's this crucial scene where Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie, has been sort of at first on Corey's side, but then starts noticing the look in his eyes and stuff. It reminds her of Michael. So she becomes very weary of him and telling Allison, you shouldn't be with him, you shouldn't date him, and all these things. And then they basically meet up at the house where Corey accidentally killed the kid when he was babysitting. And Corey, kind of in a fit of rage and madness, kills himself, and Laurie basically gets... Allison walks in and thinks Laurie did it. So that sets off the third act of the movie. And it's really kind of rushed, kind of odd, I gotta say. It is a hard movie to follow. Again, if this was a standalone horror movie, I think it's pretty good. But it's a Halloween movie and the end of a trilogy, and it just feels out of place. So I have to be honest that even for me, I'm pretty forgiving on movies. It's a hard watch. So towards the end, basically now it's back to Laurie against Michael. And that's, again, it's sort of just thrust upon us now that Michael's back and he sort of is stalking her, but it's not really even implied. And suddenly she's going to kill herself. And I thought, wow, this is really a crazy way for them to end this trilogy and maybe all the movies that Jamie Lee Curtis is ever going to be in. She knows he's outside the door. She fakes it, and Michael comes in, and then they have a battle. And the fight's okay. It's a little bit made for TV, if you ask me, but it's all right. And so Allison ends up coming in. They fight Michael together. They do some crazy stuff to him. I mean, it actually is pretty brutal. And then they tie him to the top of the car, and they take him to the place where Corey worked, which was like a dump site or a car junkyard there. And they literally fucking grind Michael Myers' body in a grinder, and it shows his whole body get smashed and split apart. So I thought, well, that's cool. Now there's a way to end Michael, is you literally shred every piece of his body. Usually it's they shoot him or run him over and you're expecting him to be dead. So with that said, I think it's actually a good way to kill Michael, but how he got there was so odd. It's the addition of Corey in this trilogy. The way it could have worked is you had to introduce Corey in the first two movies. You had to have seen him in either Halloween or Halloween Kills. It's too abrupt and sudden for him to be our main character in this thing. Because even Allison, who's sort of the secondary character to Corey, she would have been a better choice, I think, to be the crazy person who teams up with Michael. So that's really my take on Halloween Ends. Is it's not a bad movie. I think if you can take it for what it is as a singular movie, it's really not actually that bad. But when you take in all the lore and everything they were supposed to be building up to, it really does miss the mark. And it's really interesting. I'm not quite sure why they decided to go this way. I've heard that they just didn't have enough stories, so they kind of ran out of ideas, and here they are trying to make it work. But they're screenwriters, they make movies, so they should have some good ideas, I would think. So did I like Halloween Ends? Would I recommend Halloween Ends? I think I would, actually. I think that if I told you to go into it thinking of it more of a standalone film, less of part of the trilogy, you might enjoy it. But if you're looking for some sort of huge climactic ending to this trilogy, I think you might be disappointed. So I'm glad to jump on here and just do a quick review. I just wanted to throw out some ideas I had about the movie Halloween Ends. I've seen it 2 times, and it's Halloween night, and I'm having a good time, and I just wanted to say hello to everyone. Hope you're having a happy Halloween out there, and make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about Halloween Ends, or any movies you want to see me do kind of this quick review as opposed to the deep dive I usually do. And also, sorry I didn't get to doing Scream. I ran out of time. Those videos I do the deep dive on take quite a bit of time for me to make, so I just missed out. So next Halloween we'll make sure to do Scream. All right, guys, happy Halloween. And again, I'd give Halloween Ends a try, but just be wary. It might not be everything you expect. All right, take it easy. Have a good Halloween.